Recording in front of a live studio audience on October 17th, 2025 at Podfest Berlin, Megan and Konrad are joined by not one but three special guests. Nessa Finnegan provides an update on the activities of the Irish Bloc, at least the ones who haven't been prosecuted or deported or punched by the police yet. Energy transition expert Izzy Choksey explains all the profoundly sensible things the government is doing to save us from global heat death. And retired master chef Basti Knight explains life at the mercy of Germany's unemployment bureaucracy. Keep it real, fam.
In Berlin's heart, where news is unveiled, Megan and Konrad with German tales. The German news, it's tough to bear, but with mega cans, they're ready to head. Konrad, daily news at hand. Megan feels to spare time to crack those cans. With each sip she takes, the mag is her shield. But will it last the news? 'Cause that was the deal.
Thanks, everyone. Hello, it's time for a live episode of Megan's Mega Can. I'm here in Berlin, very excitingly, with a live audience. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. It seems like there's a lot of you. I'm glad everyone has a seat now. I'm Megan, for anyone that doesn't know. This is my lovely co-host, Konrad.
Hello. Nearly forgot to say that.
You're all right. I love
We're
that
all
we've got
excited
beers before we've started. This is,
Ages. I'll put it down now. Okay, I'm ready. I'm totally ready.
We have some lovely guests as well. We have Nessa.
Hello.
And Izzy.
Hi.
And we're going to introduce you a little bit more detail when we get to that. But first things first, it wouldn't be a live taping of Megan's Meg Can if I hadn't got a massive bag of cans at my feet. So I'm going to distribute those.
Megan distributes cans for 4.5 minutes, during which Konrad awkwardly tries to fill in. Cheers.
Cheers! Oh, God. Okay, I'm really trying to find like a 330 gin and tonic since they ruined my life and stopped doing the Gordon's one. No, that's not going to be it. Doesn't do good, hey?
This is good.
Like Japanese, man. Right. What's been happening?
In the news.
I don't want to hear any of it. But I suppose people might want to. They didn't just come here to hear me gabble on about gin and tonic.
Well,
sadly.
there's bits and bobs. I believe Friedrich Merz said something that pissed you off recently. Can you?
Friedrich Merz said this week, in not so many words, there are too many non-white faces in the cities of Germany. So that was an actual thing.
I think there's too few. If ever there's a country that needs more immigration.
Friedrich Merz talking about anybody's... let's talk to Nessa.
So sorry. Yes.
Nessa is from the Irish Bloc. Why don't you tell us who they are?
Sure.
Nessa?
Sure. The Irish Bloc are an Palestinian solidarity group in Berlin. As the name implies, we were founded by some Irish people living in Berlin in February 2024. Since then, though, our members are, you don't actually have to be Irish to be in the bloc. It is open to everybody. And we've been working together, going to protests together, going to demos, fundraising, doing anything that we can to support the Palestinian solidarity movement here in Berlin.
And as I'm sure people are aware, Germany has been reacting incredibly normally to people showing solidarity
Very
with
much.
the people who are being subjected to unimaginable horror. What's it like kind of now? Has it shifted? Is it...
So I would say since the last time we spoke, was on an episode last summer, was it? I think it was last summer. Yeah, I feel like things have escalated. I would be pretty comfortable in saying. So like at the moment what's happening is a lot of the cops have just become more confident in their brutalization of the movement here in Berlin. We have a lot of people with charges. That's another part of the movement at the moment. So a report just came out from a group called Palestine on Trial, who are a Berlin-based grassroots organisation, and they have been attending trials in Berlin. They've attended 200 trials since April, and I think it's something like there's 10,000 charges that are pending, which makes it the most criminalised movement since reunification in Germany. So it's... Yeah, it's quite a big number, isn't it? 10,000.
And what, I can imagine, but what are the charges that are being brought against people?
They are. So the document that was released by Palestine on Trial, they divided it into kind of 4 categories. So the students, so would be like trespassing on campus, maybe property damage, things like that.
Okay.
Banned slogans and symbols. So from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Saying that at a demo, for example. Triangles, fists. Fists are not allowed. Just people
In
often
Berlin,
don't
I
know
feel
this.
that.
Yep, fists, no fists. And what else do we have? Oh, social media. So if you posted a song with lyrics, for example, or a symbol from a band organisation. I think it was over the summer, like a 16-year-old girl had the cops turn up at her house because she posted a symbol of a band organisation on social media. She wasn't at home, so they went to her school and confiscated her phone. Yeah, 16. What else? Oh, resisting arrest. Assaulting a police officer, the polizei, which could be like I looked at one and then I could be charged. So pretty much all bets are off. Like you can be taken for anything. Yeah. Just
Happy Friday night,
sorry,
everyone.
guys. Shit.
And there's been, it's been pretty well documented on social media, if not in the actual German media, that there's huge disproportionate violent police response, like just absolutely horrifying stuff. And that is, it's a stupid question to ask. Is this like individual cases or is this like policy?
No, this is
from
cross
your-
movement. It's everybody. I don't know anyone who hasn't been assaulted by a cop, who hasn't experienced violence from the police, or isn't up for a charge, or hasn't been arrested or detained. It's one of those things, if not all, for everybody who's been going to demos for the past 2 years. Of course, there's they do target black and brown people in the demos. They treat them in a complete on another level, and you can see that very clearly, especially if people are taken into custody. If they're away in a van, if they're taken to prison, there's a very, very big disparity in how they're treated.
Have you had contact with the Irish embassy? Because
Yes.
didn't they complain when one of you, Kitty, one of you, the Irish Bloc, was punched in the face, and it caused a bit of a diplomatic incident, didn't it? What happened out of that?
Yeah, no, I haven't had any communication from the embassy.
Okay.
So they can't, as far as I understand, they can't really do anything.
Yeah.
Unless we lose our passport, we're on our own. Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
But it's okay now, according to
Yes.
Friedrich Merz,
Yes.
who, after the peace agreement, has said that this is a historic day, blah, 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 great for the Middle East, but also good for German domestic politics. There's no more need for Palestinian people in Germany to be protesting on our streets. There's a lot of talk about how public opinion has changed over the course of the last 2 years in Germany. There was some polls that came out about kind of support for Palestinian statehood, etc., with very, very high levels of support amongst people that were asked. But this doesn't seem to have any influence on what's happening.
Well, yeah, the idea that we should stop protesting is ludicrous. It's completely ludicrous at the moment. We absolutely need to keep protesting. We absolutely need to keep the conversation going. We have to keep putting pressure, because Germany's committed 29 million at the moment in urgent aid, which is nothing. That's nothing. That's no money. That's a fancy house. None of it is enough. And to say that this is over is ridiculous.
It's absolutely disgusting. I've been watching some of the interviews with Merz and Wadefuhl, and you can very clearly see how Germany is starting to sickeningly position itself as the protector of peace here, and really trying to muscle in and being we're going to work in this peace council, also with the all-important bid to have a seat on the UN Security Council next year. It's just so upsetting, and I am beyond thinking that this is just... how do you classify that kind of behaviour? It's disgusting to keep talking about in this fucking passive voice, which should be absolutely banned, about and Gaza will need rebuilding. Gaza has had famine and people are starving, and but there's no subject to any of these verbs. And then Germany, we're going to go in and clean up. And yeah, you fucking should. It's your fucking bombs that you refused, apart from 10 days or something, to maybe not do it. It's so gross.
And there's another really important role that Germany has been playing as a blocker on the European level to prevent Europe from taking united action on, for instance, the trade deal. So the trade association deal with Israel is very dependent on Europe for trade. 25% of its trade goes to Europe. So Europe closing its doors basically would be a gargantuan financial shock to Israel. And what we've seen is that the Israeli administration only responds to force. It only responds to action. And Germany has been a blocker for, I would say, about 6 months now. Mm-hmm. When the trade association agreement has been in question, they have always blocked it consistently. And that has led to an elongation. I mean, we saw famine starting, in May? We could have avoided so much of this pain and torture and destruction and famine if Germany had gone down the route of agreeing with the other European nations who wanted to do something about the trade association agreement and force Israel's hand into accepting some kind of ceasefire. So, I mean, Germany has a huge amount of responsibility for the reason that it's gone on for 2 years.
Another reason to protest?
Yeah. No, it's fixed, Nessa. You've been told. You've been told.
Sorry.
But I just think, to watch Germany swing in and start and, see these men that look like Friedrich Merz and Vadefurt, just lecturing us about peace. And I hope they don't get away with it, but I don't see how they won't, because Germany has shown itself that it knows, despite what it wants to tell itself, it knows nothing about preventing genocide. It knows nothing about never again. It knows how to get away with it. It knows how to do it effectively and then basically get away with it. Is everyone enjoying their Friday evening? I started being like, have some cans. It's all a Friday night party.
Yeah, but Izzy, you wanted to talk about something that was in you were part of a strike, I believe. Is that right?
Not quite.
Okay. But you wanted to talk about the strike.
I wanted to talk about the strike, yeah.
So this is we're talking about the Berliner magazine, which is the main English language sort of events sort of magazine. They also do a lot of articles. Yeah, I used to write for them when they had a different name and were different and more independent. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter because I used the same name.
The Berliner is a sponsor of the podcast.
And they happen to be a sponsor of the podcast, but that's okay. But I believe some people went on strike. A bit more about that.
Yeah, so the Berliner, apart from also not refusing to cover the protests, and that's been a top-down decision from management to not cover the protests in Berlin, which seems as it sort of touts itself as being a apolitical cultural magazine. But if anyone reads the issues, they'll know that it's not apolitical. There's a lot of politics that is covered in the Berliner. I mean, the March issue was basically an advertisement for Die Linke. Love it, but at the same time, come on, guys, you didn't have an advertisement for CDU at the same time. It is a political magazine. It has a lot of political content in it. It doesn't talk seriously about politics in a way that, for instance, other magazines would, but at the same time, it cannot just divorce itself from the politics around it. So based on that, I think based on ideology, essentially, of the owner, who is a billionaire mogul who owns lots of buildings, like Tacheles. Yeah.
The thing that used to be Tacheles.
The thing that used to be Tacheles. Yeah. He's the reason why it's now Porsche garage. So he bought up the Berliner. I don't really know the history, but he bought up the Berliner at some point. And
he bought Tip, and Tip bought Berliner, ex-Berliner, now and turned it into Berliner, yeah.
And it seems that he is filtering his ideology down into the magazine's content, and covering protests on Palestine has been banned within the magazine's content. They just haven't been able to cover any of it. And then recently there was an ad that was paid for by, actually, the City of Berlin. The City of Berlin has paid 1.3 million euros to promote a exhibition that's going on in Tempelhof.
1.3 million just for ads?
I'm not sure if it's all gone for advertisement, but it's 1.3 million euros that's coming out of our taxes that is paying for this exhibition.
The Nova exhibition in Tempelhof.
Yeah, maybe you can talk about or tell people what it is.
Well, it's an international. It's already been in New York, I believe, and in LA, and now it's in Berlin, and it is an exhibition about the October 7th attack on the Nova Music Festival. And they kind of recreate I haven't been to it, but I believe they recreate the aftermath of that festival. So you're kind of it's sort of immersive. and you walk around in this kind of
Yeah.
there's this sort of destroyed things, and there's like porta cabins that are on their sides and stuff. Is that more or less what it is? So and there's
so
an
it's
ad
like
for
a
it.
first-person perspective. So there is accusations that this is essentially propaganda to get people to support the genocide. So you come out of that exhibition and you're thinking, wow, wish I could take revenge on the people who did that. Oh, it turns out they are. So yeah, there is an accusation that it is essentially like propaganda for promoting what the IDF have been doing over the last 2 years. And yeah, it's obviously made a lot of people very uncomfortable. And obviously Berlin is not spending 1.3 million on representing exhibitions about Palestine. In fact, you basically
They've
can't...
got to take that money to prosecute the people like Nessa. Come on. The money doesn't grow on trees.
And you can't really host events here. If your institution is funded by public money in any way, then you cannot host events about Palestine. So, it's this like incredible mismatch between what's being kind of done on behalf of the Israeli state and what's being done to lift the voices of Palestinians who have been subjected to a genocide for 2 years. So freelancers at the Berliner decided to strike, and the ad did not get taken down. So basically there was an acceptance by the owners that we'll make a loss in this issue, maybe we'll make a loss in the next issue, but it's worth it.
It's got nothing to do with you?
Well, I do.
I thought that's why you wanted to talk about it.
I wanted to talk about it because I think it's like a pressing issue.
Oh, okay, yeah, good. Well, it is a pressing issue.
It's happening in Berlin, and it's like... So why is it to do... Well, I do tours, and I have been doing this tours in Berlin, in the Berliner magazine. So I've been like promoting tours in the Berliner magazine for the last 6 months or so. And... yeah, I'm kind of not really sure what to do going forward. I have asked to... Well, I hadn't actually invoiced for any of the tours that I'd already done, and I basically just asked them to donate to charities in Gaza for all of the tours that I have done before. So that's like 4 tours that I've done already. I just asked them to donate it all to Gaza. I work full-time. I don't need it for money. I do it for keeping my hand in the game and making sure I'm still practiced in case... climate work dries up. This is on my 3rd career already. I'm kind of used to having to change career because of global crises. So yeah, I do it for that. And so I've asked them to donate to Gaza, and basically like if they refuse to do that for, again, ideological reasons, then obviously I can't carry on working for them.
It's a shame. Like, it was such a cool publication. I remember when we didn't really even have the internet when I first moved to Berlin in any meaningful way, like no social media, and you would get the Ex-Berliner.
The Ex-Berliner was a cool publication.
Yeah.
Well, it was a real. I can talk a lot about this because I used to work for them.
Yeah.
But it was a genuinely independent local magazine, and you don't get them anymore.
No.
And it's just, and this is obviously not just a Berlin thing, but everywhere you go, like local newspapers are either being bought up or they're disappearing or going under. And Ex-Berliner was like a really... I mean, a lot of journalists got their start, a lot of Berlin journalists got their start working for Ex-Berliner. And it had a real independent spirit that it now obviously no longer has. And I think this kind of thing is inevitable when you allow major property developers to buy media. I think this is always going to happen. I mean, I just think
think of the cans we could afford, though. I wouldn't be drinking this off-brand,
But there's some kind of stat about like in the world how local media is all being destroyed, and there's no money in it anymore, and it's like a real tragedy, and we've lost a lot. And I think this whole story with the strike, I think, is like another symptom of it, really.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that there is a wider story to be told here about billionaires buying up free press and then sort of taking over that ability to have freedom of expression. And we're seeing it in the United States. Like, it really matters who owns CBS, it turns out.
Yeah.
And it really matters who owns Paramount and who owns Disney. And we all know their names now because, like, we've learnt them over the last 6 months, because it's like that one will fight, that one will cave. Most of them cave because they all have some kind of deal or back scratching with the president / mafia boss, who's kind of in charge of whether they get their contracts or not. Like, that's really disturbing, and we're supposed to hold them to account. Like, it's a bit mad.
Anyway, the real reason why you're here, well, no, it's not the real reason, but the other reason why you're here is because you are an expert on the climate.
Yeah.
You work for
Third career.
Yeah, your third career. You work for a think tank. and you specialise in the steel industry at the moment, but you used to specialise in sort of energy transition. Well, what's been going on with the energy transition? So, because that's obviously a big thing and it's not really in the news anymore. So the bit of local news that I wanted to talk about, actually I think it was really, really exciting and positive, was that last week there was the Hamburg Zukunftsentscheid, so a decision about the future, where they decided by 53% to 47%, hang on, get my notes.
Get your notes.
That Hamburg would bring forward its climate neutral target from 2045 to 2040. This happened over the objections of all the major parties except Die Linke in Hamburg. And
Even the Greens?
Well, the Greens were divided. Greens. So,
Dear God, that's fine if you're divided over something else. You can't be divided over climate targets, surely. What the fuck are you doing?
So it's not. I mean, it's not really that radical as well. It's only 5 years earlier. They want to be carbon neutral in Hamburg now. But anyway, the Greens were divided. So the state Greens, so Hamburg is also a state. Then the state Greens were in favour, but the Greens that are actually in power because they're in the government in Hamburg, they actually were against it.
Did they want it to be? Do you know why they were against it?
They're just worried about business, basically.
Oh gosh, fair.
Yeah, I mean that's.
They thought it would be unpopular with
with their green voters.
All the business associations were obviously very against it, especially the Housing Business Association, whatever that's called. Yeah, and so that now what they have to do is they have set these linear targets every year. So by 2040, the city has to be carbon neutral. And in fact, to his credit, the SPD mayor, Peter Tschentscher, this is a great name because it has the combination TSCH twice in it. Tschentscher, Peter Tschentscher of the SPD has already said that he will implement the results of the referendum, so he will follow it.
That's nice of him, isn't it, to implement a democratic decision? That's sweet of him.
And now they've set these, so they have these fixed targets every year that they have to stick to, and if they don't stick to them, direct measures have to be imposed.
What do we get to do? Like pitchforks at the Rathaus?
I don't know, you could tip over a Porsche or something. I don't know.
Ooh.
But anyway, direct measures. But I'm kind of interested in this because it's like a local, like a grassroots movement that turned into a referendum that had an effect on a city. And there's a similar one going on in Berlin, which is the Baumentscheid. Do you know about the Baumentscheid? You've probably had someone on your show about it, or not? No.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, they're kind of a bit underground because they haven't actually done the referendum yet. What they've done is they're threatening to do a referendum unless the current Berlin government implements their demands. And if they don't have that, and they've actually all this week they've been negotiating with the officials from the CDU and the SPD in government in Berlin. If they don't get all the things into a new Klimaanpassungsgesetz, so that's a climate adaptation law, which is going to be voted on November 3rd, if they don't get all their demands into that, they will force a referendum next year. So they've been kind of they've been trying to work with the government.
This approach.
So they've already got enough signatures? They've already got like 70,000 signatures?
They've got the initial signatures. They collected them last year. I think it's 30,000 you have to get get the first thing. And now next year, if they don't get their demands into the new climate adaptation law, they will start collecting. They need like couple of 100,000, whatever the next stage of the referendum thing is. And I just think it's kind of, it's interesting. So in Hamburg now they will have to reduce the speed limit to 30 kilometers an hour, which is another demand of the climate. And it's interesting as well, it's called a climate adaptation law because that's where we are now. It's not stopping climate change, it's adapting to climate change. And it includes one of their demands is, for example, plant 1 million trees in the city of Berlin. So
that'd be nice.
Yeah. But I kind of, what I was interested in was the contrast between that and what the federal government is supposed to be doing. And that's why I was hoping Izzy would fill us in.
Yeah, so just a couple of points on Hamburg. What I found interesting is the binding annual target is really important because essentially what's been happening with a lot of these 2040, 2050 targets is that you can quite easily just leave it until the last decade. So just say well, we're a democratic government that's going to be voted out in 5 years. I'm not going to do the hard stuff, so I'm just going to push it into the 2030s and then push it into the 2040s and then push it into 2050s. So an annual target is really important. That's what we have in our Klimagesetz as well in Germany, which is really important to actually make sure that you have like action that's happening every single year. And it also means that the economic costs of change don't have to happen in 5 years, they can happen in 15 or 20 or 30 years. And that also massively decreases the pressure on like a future generation to absorb the costs of change within a very short amount of time. So in terms of what I do, I work on steel decarbonisation. So I don't just work on the steel industry generally, I do their decarbonisation pathways. And I previously worked on power sector. I haven't worked on Germany for a while now, but I did sort of like swat up a little bit on this before coming on. But yeah, so in terms of Germany's climate goals, we're doing quite well in the power sector. But in terms of industry, transport and the building sector, it's not going well at all. And in fact, Merz, if you're interested in climate and getting more electric vehicles on the roads, Merz is also not your favourite guy. Is
he anyone's favourite guy? Is his ma still alive? Because I swear to God, she seemed like... Honestly.
So the EU decided back during the Green New Deal to eradicate what's it called, combustion engine vehicles by 2035. So by 2035, you won't be able to buy any new combustion engine vehicles. So
yes.
this is like huge. This is great. They did it in like 2020. So to give car companies like 15 years, guys, that's enough time. It's enough time. And then the car company was like, yeah, okay, we're gonna do it. Okay. And then since then, they've just not done it.
Yeah.
And now China's come along and done it and done it really
They're fucking
cheap.
livid.
And they've like got really cheap cars.
Yeah.
And now the German automotive companies are being like, oh, but we can like be competitive still with our combustion engine cars. So like don't phase those guys out. And so previously we had a previous government where the FDP, Christian Lindner, who I don't think you like him either, Megan, from memory.
Wouldn't be my top 5 lads, no.
I think he had the Porsche CEO on speed dial. And the Porsche CEO was like, hey, can we get these like, alternative fuels in the gazettes? And can we like change it up a little bit so it's not necessarily like a complete eradication of
the
combustion
alternative
engine.
fuels that don't exist.
Alternative fuels that don't exist and they're not
finance
they're not
grow,
cost competitive.
like,
What are we going to do? We're not going to grow
everything.
food anymore. We're going to grow like alternative fuels. It's just mad. So that's not going well because Friedrich Merz is now coming out against the combustion engine phase out. And he's also coming out against the climate target, the 2040 target. And also the Germans are talking about moving against something called the end of free allowances to the EU emissions trading system, which would mean that industry also is able to carry on emitting longer than planned. And this is massively problematic because a lot of companies did their homework. They started doing their homework in like 2019, 2020, when these pieces of legislation were coming out. They were like, okay, the pathway is clear. We've got the EU ETS, the emissions trading system. We've got the end of free allowances coming in 2034. We're going to have to be climate neutral by then. Otherwise, it's going to be way too expensive to burn fossil fuels. And we won't be able to make products that we can sell with a profit. So they were starting to make investments. And we have a lot of companies, in steel I know it best, but a lot of companies were actually making investments in different kinds of technologies that could produce things without using fossil fuels. And now they're talking about taking away the only way to close the cost gap between clean and fossil-based by the early 2030s. And that means that these companies are going to go bankrupt. So you're choosing the old fossil-based, fossil, lots of different ways of interpreting that word in this, but like fossil-based infrastructure, fossil-based companies, we're choosing them, the legacy companies that refuse to move, or it's too expensive, or it's too difficult, or now we've got Chinese competition. You're choosing them over companies that have actually made the investments. And yes, it's a smaller portion of the economy, but my argument is always it's the more resilient part of the economy. It's part of the economy that's going to grow and not shrink. And it's the part of the economy that is going to provide jobs into the future rather than, we can't compete with coal-based steel now. So why do we think we're going to somehow manage to compete with coal-based steel in the 2030s?
Right.
It's a fallacy. So, yeah, it's not going that well under the new government.
And but I think since about, when was it, 2019, there's been this transformation investment fund in Germany, right? And that's where all the money is supposed to go. That is invested in Berlin or Germany reaching its climate targets. And at the beginning of the year, the Greens negotiated because there was a big vote. Merz really wanted to rearm Germany. He needed a 2/3 majority in the parliament, so he needed the Greens to vote with him. And the Greens would only vote with him if they agreed to add 100 billion euros to this transformation investment fund.
Yep.
So what's happening with that money? That sounds like a lot of money to me. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's good. And just for a little bit of context here, that was a very bitter vote for the Greens because it was the CDU that had gone to Teacher and told Teacher at the Supreme Court that the Greens and the SPD and the FDP, but they weren't really, had misspent money that was originally planned for Corona. So there was like this 100 billion euros back in like 2023, and they were like, we didn't spend it, so we're going to now spend it on climate. So they just like took like 100 billion euros and they decided to spend it on climate. The CDU then comes along and then puts a lawsuit against them. Yeah. And it turned out to be the moment that was decided in November of last year was a very dramatic moment that led to the collapse of the government and led to the Greens arguably losing their position as being a member of the ruling coalition. So it also led to Habeck's reputation being destroyed and he left politics. So it was a very bitter vote for the Greens to then come to the aid of the CDU in a special fund. Yeah. Right? Like this, it was difficult for them to do it, but they did it because they saw it as pragmatic, which I tend to agree with. I think they could have forced more concessions, but that's another story for May or whenever this happened. Yeah. But 100 billion euros is important, but I think what's more important is the 500 billion euros, you can still use all of it for climate, right? So we don't have to just focus on the 100 billion, which 100 billion will be for things like building out renewables, grid infrastructure, thinking about like all of the things that we need to be a renewables-based economy. So the specific projects that you need for power sector transition and the specific projects that you need also for heat transition as well. So, yeah, the heating industry is now demanding a new heating bill. Also, the CDU destroyed that as well. So they need a new version of that now.
That they want a new heating bill. Because that's the one thing that they were... That's the thing that everyone was complaining about 2 years ago.
There's a lot of not necessarily looking into the future and planning for the future. There's a lot of looking into the past.
Actually, this happened to me this week because this week I had to get a new heating. Although I didn't have to get it this week, but I had to go to a meeting with my with my Hausverwaltung about the new heating system, and they said if you install a what do you call it thing? What do you call it? The
heat pump.
Heat pump. Yeah, you get 20%. You get 20% off. Thanks to the government.
It's good.
I mean, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Not being dependent on fossil gas anymore. District heating will kind of hopefully.
Well, apparently in Hamburg, by 2040, all the buildings, both public and private, will have to have one of these heat pumps.
Or you're dependent on district heating, which is through like some kind of power plant, and then that will have to be converted to renewables. So but just on a more wider point on this 500 billion, so there are ways to make that also a climate policy as well. So there's something called lead market policy, which is like where you demand that the money that gets spent on, this is all infrastructure, right? And infrastructure needs steel and it needs cement. And these are very heavy emitting industries. Like my focus is steel. So I know the numbers for steel. It's like 8% of global emissions comes from steel industry. Mm-hmm. It's astonishingly large. And it's the largest emissions industry in Germany. So these are big emitters of CO2. For every 1 ton of steel, it's like 2 tons of CO2. So for every 1 ton of steel that you make, you're emitting 2 tons of CO2 to make that steel. So it's gargantuan amounts of CO2 that is emitted every time you're making steel. And there are ways to do that without emitting CO2. And we are actually investing in that now. So the way that you can de-risk those investments is to get lead market policy. So make sure there's demand on the other side, make sure there's an off-taker, make sure there's a buyer. Mm-hmm. And that buyer can be the government. So the idea is that you make sure that 500 billion euros, if you're buying railway tracks or if you're buying, those things that go on the sides of roads, or if you're building roads and you need steel or you need cement, or you're building buildings or you're building bridges, you make sure that steel and that cement has some kind of climate target.
And is that happening?
Well, that's what climate organisations like mine are lobbying for.
Okay.
So that's what we do, is we do like climate policy, and we lobby for things like lead market policy to make sure that you can spend all money on climate. So all public money, it's called public procurement. All of that money should be spent on green products, because if the government does it, it de-risks it for commercial enterprises to do it, and then the private sector can follow. So that's kind of the idea of green public procurement, is that you de-risk it so that commercial entities can do it. So yeah, it's not just the 100 billion, it's actually 500 billion that's up for grabs for climate policy if you listen to climate think tanks.
Okay.
I think we should.
I think you should too.
Yeah. I wish I got to make these decisions.
We don't make any decisions, we just lobby.
Anyway.
When you said that the CDU is just the political wing of Volkswagen, that was maybe the truest thing I've ever heard.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's their job, is just to protect Volkswagen and BMW.
And it's just so
And
frustrating
they're
because
doing,
it's
their,
just
doing their best.
like German thing of like not being able to, like, you can run a system, they will run a system and keep that system running forever, but any kind of change is just not.
But I agree with protecting domestic industry. I agree with that. We're also protecting jobs, and we're protecting livelihoods, and we're protecting entire cities that are dependent on these industries. I agree with that.
Like Wolfsburg.
But the way that I would do it is to make those industries resilient and support them whilst they're creating that resilient pathway, which is what, let's be honest, like the Greens, that was the only thing they were good at doing. They were good at having climate transition pathways for industry, for power sector, for heating. Like, that's kind of what they did. I don't think they did the social stuff very well, which is why they didn't reach wider audiences. And I think that they were terrible at messaging, which is also why they were able to be totally bulldozed during the heating bill disaster. But they did really well with just laying those pathways and figuring out ways that you could actually protect your industry and at the same time make it resilient. So that it lasts into the 2050s rather than, you know, let's face it, dies out of competition with China in the 2030s, which is the
Really
current
interesting.
pathway.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think so.
Okay, we got to move on anyway.
Yes,
We have a mystery guest.
we do.
Would you like to come on stage, mystery guest? Are you there? There he is. Yeah, good. Are you going to bring Larry?
Basti, I did get you a beer. Yeah. I listened to the podcast when you do it when I was on holiday.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is Basti Knight. You might have heard him on this show about 3 years ago when Megan wasn't here. We did a special edition called Basti's Beer Can. Don't know, probably none of you listened to that.
I've listened to it a lot.
Okay.
It's really good.
Yeah. So he sometimes fills in for Megan. Yeah, does that work? Are you comfortable?
Well, I'm never comfortable, but I mean, relatively, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can you hear my voice more than anyone else's?
That's 'cause
That's unclear, but I think it's
I don't
because
know.
you're a special guest.
Go on.
So, well, you've only just arrived, so I'm not actually sure how I'm supposed to introduce you. But basically, you are a chef, an expert in food, and you're currently unemployed. Is that right?
Well, I'm a retired chef.
Right. Oh, you're actually retired, yes?
Well, I think currently it's not possible to make money from selling food. Being a chef or selling food has always been difficult. Very, very hard work. 90% you're a labourer, 10% an artiste, whatever. But if you get it all right, you can make a little bit of money. But now I don't think it's possible.
So what now?
Well, I'm unemployed, semi-insolvent, and I get a Bürgergeld, which is like the dole.
Yeah, which is why we've invited
So,
Basti on. Because
are you aware of the Bürgergeld reform that has been introduced?
Absolutely, it's an absolute disgrace.
Okay. I'll just fill in the listeners, if in case they're not aware. So it is being changed to the Grundsicherung, and
which they put Grund in there to make it sound like universal basic income, which is the sexy one of these, but it's not.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
So to go briefly into the history of unemployment benefit in Germany, it used to be for about 40 years it was just normal unemployment benefit. And then 25 years ago, the Gerhard Schröder's government decided to reform it and call it Hartz IV, and the basic idea of that whole reform was to impose more sanctions, get people back into, by sort of forcing people back into the labour market. in a way. And this was very unpopular, especially amongst the left-wing parts of, and it actually caused a split, which split the left in Germany and ended up with the Linke Party happening. But that was part of the reason why this split happened, was because of the reform to unemployment benefit. Fast forward to only last year, they changed it to something called Bürgergeld, citizens' money, literally. And that was to slightly correct the Hartz IV. It was like slightly make it a bit more encouraging people, trying to help them rather than sanctioning them. And fast forward again to the current government, which is the CDU, obviously under uber-capitalist Friedrich Merz, and he's rolled that back once more and imposed even tougher sanctions on people on Bürgergeld, and he's going to rename it to Grundsicherung. And the main sanction is if you miss one appointment at the job centre, you get an invitation to a second appointment immediately. If you miss that appointment, your monthly pay is cut by 30%. So instead of, it's currently €563 a month if you're on Bürgergeld, you will only get €394. If you miss another appointment, your third appointment, you get no money at all. So no money apart from the rent. And if you miss the fourth appointment, you get actually no money at all, so they don't even pay your rent then. So they've kind of brought in this like extremely strict...
Can I just ask, I recently was on my way to an appointment, and the job centre guy called me and said, "Oh, I've just seen that you've got an appointment with me. It's a mistake. You don't need to come."
Okay.
Do I get like an extra 30%?
Yeah, I can ask for you.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'll send an email.
Well, I did. And as far as I knew, if you miss an appointment, they take 10%. But I mean, maybe they've changed it. But also, if you go on holiday or something, even if you just leave Berlin, you have to tell them. I know someone that was on the Bürgergeld, and they went to a wedding in Northern Ireland. And they got in trouble for missing an appointment.
Yeah, what has been, and obviously this is like, I am so absolutely disgusted by this. The fact that Friedrich Merz, who probably has never actually had a drink with someone who's ever been on the dole or ever needed anything, it just makes me so sick. How do you feel about this, Basti? What if are you going to let them force you to go to work? Because this is the other thing they're trying to do, isn't it? You have to just fucking get out there, get working, just like Friedrich Merz does, just like his hard toil for BlackRock, for minimum wage.
Well, I mean, I do feel a little bit ashamed of being unemployed. I think I've never ever I'm 43. I've never sought help from the government until now. But at the same time, where there's a lot of billionaires that don't pay tax. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. But it used to be like, let's say 20 years ago, if you're unemployed, it was a bit like, get a job, like you're lazy or whatever. I think in my case, I do have some relatively good reasons for being unemployed. I had a business, recession and increasing taxes made it we had to close my business. So it's not like I chose to be unemployed. And also, I am a little bit older, so when you do something for 8 years and you kind of think, I'm a chef, I've got my own restaurant and this is what I want to do, and then you're suddenly unemployed, you can't just be like, okay, I'll just be like manager of a Burger King or something, which I think I could do. I've probably been quite good at that. But I know at the same time, I'm a little bit exhausted mentally, physically. So it's like, and also I do have some debt. So like, you get a bit of money from the government, but you're not like, oh, this is brilliant, I'm just getting free money. It's really, like literally, I mean, I have a dog. His food costs maybe €80 a month.
Yeah.
Which leaves me with like maybe €20 a week for food. It's like that's nothing.
Yeah. But also, and this is what people like Merz and other people that like to talk a big game about unemployment, this is part of the fucking social contract. Mm-hmm. We are in a society, it is the way that it is, it's set up the way that it is, and the Conservatives are the ones who want to keep it that way. So there's this idea of like, when times are good, and you're doing well, but then also there's like a safety net and we all pay fucking taxes to do that unless you're a billionaire. All of our contribution to society and the place that we hold is supposed to be part of this fucking social contract that allows, you know, people like Merz to be up at the top and then other people to need whatever. I'm quite drunk.
I believe in like a free market capitalism. I mean, no system is perfect, but I do believe in free market capitalism. You know, you work hard, you can have a business, whatever, but it only works if everyone pays tax.
Yeah.
So if like billionaires figure out a way to like put their money in a different country or
Larry,
to
absolutely
register their company in a country that doesn't pay tax,
Or
to
we stop taxing
you know?
assets, right? Which is what's happened, is we don't tax assets anymore. We tax wages
Absolutely,
rather than
yeah.
assets. So we tax work rather than wealth. So if you don't tax wealth, then billionaires figure out a way to pass on their wealth to kids, and you get an aristocracy, which is what has happened all over Europe. We now live in
Absolutely.
aristocracies. We don't live in free market economies. We live in aristocracies.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
feudal.
what a lot of people don't realise now, is that most of the money in the world is in wealth. It's not in wages.
Your job is like being rich.
Yeah, and that's where most of the money in the world that isn't at the moment.
And we wonder why
fortunes.
we can't afford decent schools. And we wonder why we can't afford to transition to climate neutral industries and climate neutral all of this, that and the other. Like, we wonder why. It's because all of our money's been taken away. They didn't earn their wealth through working harder than all of us, by the way.
No.
Well, especially
did not.
Merz didn't. He earned his money from selling his contacts to the business people.
God, man. Ooh.
Yeah, good. How many chicken hearts have you eaten this week?
Well, okay, so great question. So I have type 2 diabetes as well, so I need to eat a lot of fat and protein. And it's not good if I eat sugar or carbohydrates. So if you're poor, carbohydrates all day long, you can buy like a spaghetti for 70 cents.
Yeah.
You can just eat like bread. But it's not good for me, so it's like, what's the cheapest protein? So just a quick shout out to chicken hearts. Eggs are absolutely brilliant. If you think an unfertilized egg has everything in it that can make a fetus turn into a small chicken. So it's like breast milk or something, you know, you can live off eggs, you know. But even an egg costs
food.
about 27 cents, like the cheapest one. So I guess, let's say, you know, if you just sort of, I've got so little money, I'll live off eggs. Maybe like, what would that be, like €3 a day? Let's say you had like 10 eggs a day.
Well, I have actually worked it out. Well, I didn't have to work it out, but so the Bürgergeld is €563 a month. And the way they come to that number, because according to the German constitution, everyone has to have a life, a self-determined life of dignity. And so that dignity. This is true. This is true. And so they kind of come up with it. They make a lot of
And they
do a
think
lot
that's
of sums.
560 quid a
Yeah,
month.
they do.
Fuck you.
Like it's the judges, the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court. They have to come up with a
Those
minimum.
lads, right.
And they figured it out, and it's done by percentage. So 34.7% of this €563 a month is to go to food and alcohol-free drinks. And that works out at $6.51 a day for food. Your health, looking after your health, is $21.48 a month. What else have we got here? Oh, this is my favourite one, is Bildung, so education, €2 a month. Post and telecommunication, so that would be your mobile phone and your internet bill, €50.33 a month. Transport, $50.49 a month. Anyway, it goes on. Yeah, and one of them is Beherbergungs- und Gaststättendienstleistungen. So that's basically going to the pub.
Hang on, let me guess.
How much would you? What's your going to the pub?
I think they probably give you €40 a month.
Nah, no way. No, $14.70.
Sorry, a month to go
Okay.
to the pub?
Yeah,
What, in 1991?
yeah.
Pop over the ruins
That's
of
how-
the wall and go to some speakeasy
I mean,
in Peeberg.
I'm just a messenger. You go to the German state. They worked all this out.
I don't think this is very dignified to tell people in percentage terms what they should spend their money on.
Yeah.
And
but-
like, how in Germany can you not budget for like beer? No.
Well, what I do is like, let's say a friend asks me if I want to go for a drink. I was like, I don't have any money, and they always say, I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah.
So that it's easy.
Well, I think that's what the German
when people
state
get when
Is
people
that why
get
you're
drunk, they're very susceptible to like just making bad decisions. So if you drink a beer and you're I have to go, I've got no money. They say,
Yeah.
no, stay. I'll get you another beer.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know.
Well, it worked tonight. You got a free beer, didn't you? So.
But he did
Well,
also
no.
bring his own, which now I feel awful.
I was actually hoping that was yours, and then I could like introduce myself.
Oh, hello.
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 Respect.
Good. Great. I think. Have you got anything to add? I think that's all we've got time for.
Just family is everything, Ben. I love you so much. You're a brilliant brother, and thank you for helping me, because when you're in the shit, who helps you? It's your family.
It's not the German state, that's for damn sure. Thank you so much to all our lovely guests, to Basti and Izzy and Nessa. And thank you all so much for coming, and thank you very, very, very much to Podfest and Dan.
Dan, yeah, for doing the sound.
Thank you.
Dan.
Yeah, obviously we're sticking around for a drink.
Yeah,
So-
I believe there's a party.
Yeah.
A party?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the next 50 minutes.
Oh.
That's good, because if you see me still drinking after about 11:15, you have to punch me in the face. I have to get on a train tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you very much,
remember that.
everyone.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
I still have some cans here, unbelievably.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Maggot can, German news in English with a cocktail can. The German news, it's quite a test. With Megan's Mega, you're feeling refreshed. Ooh, Maggot can, German news in English with a cocktail can. Deutsche Nachrichten sind düster und schwer.
Defy the fear.
Yeah.
It's actually it's quite a positive message to give to
think
people.
so.
I like to think that we have quite a positive impact on our listeners,
I hope so.
because we try and get them to defy the fear of listening to the news all day.
I mean, it's better than reading a German newspaper, surely.
I would definitely recommend listening to our podcast more than reading any German newspaper.
German newspapers barely have pictures.
No.
Like fucking, it's just a brick of text.
Oh yes.
It's
Yeah, and they seem to
awful.
make a virtue of it. They think it's like so great to have no
Oh,
text.
not like you Americans
pictures.
with your fucking
Colour pictures.
decadent pictures in
I
your
know.
newspapers.
Yeah,
What's
but-
that, a crossword puzzle? Oh, no
You have
wonder
to-
you had Trump. Jesus Christ, everyone. Like, there's a middle ground.
You have to concentrate on the news. It's very important. And you have to like keep it there.
Just have a mega.
Have a mega. Give us a picture every now and then.
Just a
And
wee picture, maybe of,
yeah.
a diagram.